Here is the top 5 highly developed countries. The Human Development Index, HDI, is a composite measurement used to rank nations as indicated by their improvement levels from high to low. Countries are put dependent on future, schooling, way of life, kid government assistance, medical care, monetary government assistance, and populace joy. Recipes are utilized to factor all the factors and decide the scores of nations. Pundits have referred to the HDI as erroneous or dubious, yet concocting top 10 exceptionally created nations list on my own sentiment would have been abstract and most likely gravely positioned. In this manner, I have essentially recorded the initial 10 nations on the HDI and showed their scores, while giving clarifications. Appreciate. Number 5. Canada. Score, 0.908. Canada is, geographically, the second largest country next to Russia and shares the longest international border in the world with the United States. Canada is governed by a parliamentary democracy and a constitutional monarchy and keeps its ties with the United Kingdom close, being one of the few countries with two anthems, O Canada, the national anthem, and God Save the Queen, the royal anthem, with Queen Elizabeth II being the head of state. The country is very economically advanced with a GDP $1.758 trillion and GDP per capita of $51,147. It has an intelligent population with high education and literacy rates, and a large percentage of the population is even bilingual or trilingual. English and French are the official languages, but Spanish doesn't hurt. Canada is known for its free health care system, on top of an 80.7 life expectancy, and poses minimal taxes on the 34.7 million inhabitants. And of course, it is a great tourist destination, as you can visit the world-renowned waterfall of Niagara Falls, or the capital of Ottawa, or maybe even the historical landmarks at the largely French-routed city of Quebec. Number 4. New Zealand. Score, 0.908. New Zealand is a little and moderately far off gathering of islands and was one of the last islands to be found and settled by people. Hence, it contains a delightful scene and thriving creature life and biodiversity that pulls in groups of travelers yearly. New Zealand is a parliamentary established government that additionally perceives Queen Elizabeth II as head of state and in their public hymn, while John Key is the Prime Minister. New Zealand has one of the most noteworthy expectations for everyday comforts and bliss evaluations on the planet, and will in general be a solid promoter for harmony and ecological maintainability, forbidding atomic weapons and ensuring its different natural life. The nation's GDP is $157.877 billion, with a GDP for every capita of $35,374 for its populace of about 4.3 million. Its schooling, education, and well-being guidelines are for the most part high with a future of 80.2 years. Continue living, Jamie. Obviously, New Zealand is a problem area for voyagers searching for lovely geology and biodiversity, and keeping in mind that you're there you can stop by the magnificent city where Jamie came from, Wellington. Number 3. United States of America. Score, 0.910. The United States came a long way from its beginnings in 1776, beating the British in the American Revolution, with a lot of help from the French, and declaring its independence, and now, after removing the Native Americans, fighting a civil war, dealing with the Great Depression, and engaging in 2 world wars, the U.S. has emerged as the most powerful country in the world, with a GDP of $15 trillion, the largest in the world, and a GDP per capita of $48,147. The U.S. is a representative democracy, republic, and a manufacturing giant and a major importer and exporter of goods and a trading partner with every major country. The U.S. is one of the most ethnically diverse countries in the world. The state I live in, California, has a 50% Asian, Latin American, and African American population, out of almost 40 million people. However, all this aside, The US loses points because, out of a population of nearly 315 million, there is a 15% poverty rate, 9% unemployment average, and in some states up to 14%, and international critics argue that American education standards fall behind the rest of the world. Also, the US loses points in health because, while life expectancy is relatively high at 79 years, obesity rates are skyrocketing, with up to 33% of adults at obese levels, and similar rates for children. On top of all this, America is spiraling through massive debt and dragging other countries down through the decrease of trade caused by the global recession. With 2012 elections looming, we'll see how President Barack Obama will tackle these issues if he is re-elected. Number 2. Netherlands. Score, 0.910, otherwise called the United Netherlands or Holland. The Netherlands is an established government, while additionally being an agent vote-based system. The Netherlands has high instructive and proficiency norms, while having low destitution and joblessness rates, and is driven by its Prime Minister Mark Rutte. Since its commencement, the Netherlands was one of the vital originators of the EU, NATO, OECD, and WTO and is called the world's legitimate capital, facilitating 5 global court frameworks. The nation's GDP is $832.160 billion and has a GDP for every capita of $49,950. In May of 2011, the Netherlands' 16.7 million individuals were positioned as the most joyful on the planet, with a steady economy, honest government, low charges, excellent urban communities, for example, the capital of Amsterdam, and a solid future of 79.8 years. Number 1. Australia. Score, 0.929, officially the Commonwealth of Australia. This continent has the world's 13th largest economy, with a GDP of $918.978 billion, and the 5th highest per capita of $40,836. Australia is a federal parliamentary constitutional monarchy with some of the highest rankings in the world in the categories of quality of life. The people are very happy, health, education, nearly a 100% literacy rate and extremely high percentages of enrollment and college graduates, economic freedom, and finally civil liberties and protection of human rights. The 22.7 million inhabitants enjoy a country striving for a stable government, content citizens, peace, and sustainability and protection of wildlife and biodiversity, of which Australia has a lot of, and a life expectancy of 81.2 years. Of course, Australia is a fantastic place to visit and experience its rustic wildlife and beautiful cities such as Sydney. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more videos.